Hey you guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews. Today we're getting our first impressions of the new releases from Immortal, Metal Church, and Vomitory. Three releases from three pretty much classic bands.
Yeah.
Right? From different genres. You got classic black metal, classic heavy metal, and classic death metal.
An old school day today.
So I started my day off with Immortal, so War Against All. We actually got tricked by this album because we thought it released, for some reason there was a weird thing with the release date, back in February I think. A new Immortal came out. We thought they dropped the album and then, I don't know, it was a weird thing. I don't even know why I'm mentioning this. But anyways, it finally came out today. I listened to it finally, and I was actually pretty surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I got into Immortal before, kind of went through a big black metal phase at one point. Immortal was one of the bands that stood out to me the most. We've covered Abath on the channel before, same vein for obvious reasons. But in my head, in my memory, I was always kind of yeah, it's just kind of that, typical 90s Norwegian black metal kind of sound and feel. But when I listened to this today, I just felt like they brought a lot more to the table than that. And it makes me want to go back and listen to old Immortal again and see, was I missing stuff back then when I listened to it before? I'm not sure. So my biggest gripe with this album, really, I got two gripes with it on the first impression. The first half is a lot stronger than the second half. That's one thing. And my second gripe has to do with that because in the second half, there's a 7-minute long instrumental song, which I feel kind of falls flat. It's track number 6. It's called Nordland here. Sorry, something like that. Butchering it probably. Nordlandir. I don't know. 7 minutes and 12 seconds instrumental. I was listening to it. I was like, okay, first there's a 7-minute song. Okay, this is gonna be something epic. And then I just started noticing, okay, there's no vocals. Okay.
With songs like those, you get to a point where you kind of realize, oh, this is an instrumental. The vocals would have come in by now, and they didn't.
Yeah, well,
an instrumental.
Once I realized it was instrumental, there was still more than half the song to go, and I'm waiting for something. I'm waiting for something epic to happen, something to make me go, yes, this instrumental was a good idea. But it just seemed like it was there for the sake of being there. It just fell flat for me. I mean, again, I listened to it once. It's probably not the fairest to judge it this critically off of first listen. But I will say the first half of the album, tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4, were all really good. Nice bounce overall, just good riffing. Some of the chords sounded like they're being reused, on tracks 1 and 2. It felt like they were playing the same chords just in different arrangements. Again, I'm not a guitar player, so I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing, but that's what I'm hearing in my head, right? But either way, it still sounded good. So overall, decent first impression. I'd like to give it more chances, more time. But I feel like that 7-minute instrumental hurts it the most.
Interesting. I guess I thought the 7-minute instrumental was fine, but what really was interesting to me was right before it, Return to Cold. The way that they have this mini quiet section in the middle makes it feel like a kind of long scale, long format song, but it's only 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I found it funny that oh yeah, they're kind of doing a long song, but in a short format, followed by, oh, this is an actual long song, and it's instrumental, which I thought was a unique thing for the album to have. At the very least, it's not like it sounds like a copy and paste of another song. It's its own thing, has its own place on the album, and it stands out as being this 7-minute instrumental. None of the other songs are like that. I had a similar experience to you. I went into this thinking, okay, I expect old school black metal. That was it, right? And I got some pretty nice riffs. And speaking about nice riffs, I think that's going to be one of the most common comments for all of the albums that we're covering today. Especially because at their core, these genres have that as a foundation. A good black metal album is going to have riffs that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Same with heavy metal, same with death metal. In this one, the riff at the minute mark onward in Thunders of Darkness, enjoyed that quite a bit. War God, honestly, as a whole, I enjoyed a lot. The album, it has small bits of cool riffs or cool shots or cool little sprinkles of interesting content that this band throws in that I think really makes it more than just some black metal album. You know,
Yeah.
it's more than that, and I like that because it has the classic sound of old school black metal, but there's more flavor to it. So you get what you want and more, essentially.
That's right. So next on my list was Metal Church Congregation of Annihilation. This is a band, they've been around forever. I've never really given them much of my time, to be honest. This could have very well been the first time I've ever heard them. I've known they've existed. They're, you see their name every once in a while here and there, but listen to them today expecting an old school metal sound and got exactly what I expected. It reminded me more so of like a new wave of British heavy metal type of sound, like old Judas Priest or old Saxon, Motorhead, Venom, Angel Witch, that kind of stuff. But these guys are American, so they're not, I guess, can't be included in that vein. But they're from the same era, like early '80s, and I feel like that is evident here. There's some pretty cool vocal performance, some falsetto type of screams, high notes, stuff like that. Overall, the only song that really stood out to me was track number 3, "Pick a God and Pray." Pray spelled P-R-E-Y, so a nice little play on words there. This song started grabbing me in the second half, which was cool, but I just kept wishing that I wish the whole song grabbed me like the second half did. Overall, the album's alright. I didn't hate it by any means, but it just didn't do a lot for me. So, decent, but not the greatest for me.
Well, similar to you, I had heard of this band multiple times, but never really checked them out before checking out this album. So all I knew is that, okay, this is an old school heavy metal band. That's all I knew. So I was expecting them to sound like that, and I got more than that, similar to the Immortal album. And, on hearing the first track, I kind of thought, like, this reminds me a lot of, like, old school, maybe, like, even Megadeth and Metallica almost, with kind of, like, the aggressive riffing style. But then I was kind of thinking, like, the vocals kind of remind me of Destruction a little bit, which I thought was cool. Like, the vocals have such a wide range on this album, and I like that a lot. There's just so much content, so much variety going on, and that's really cool. A small, cool little thing they do. After the solo in Children of the Lie, the vocals start switching around between the left and right channels. I thought that was a neat little thing that I noticed, like, oh, okay. Cool, fun little thing they did. The intro to Making Monsters, like, feels like, okay, there's a completely different thing going on here. It's all quiet, it's all, different sounding. The groove is nice. They use the intro as the outro and they fade out, which is really cool. And I had a lot of fun with this album. Like, overall, this is probably my favorite album of the day, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I look forward to listening to it more.
That actually surprises me a bit, but that's really cool. That's your actual top pick for the day. Last but not least, Vomitory. All Heads Are Gonna Roll. Again, a band that has existed forever, but I've never really given them the time of day that they probably deserve. These guys have been around since the 80s as well, from Sweden, and they're just, classic death metal. But like the Immortal album, I feel like this brought a little bit more to the table. I feel like this didn't sound like just basic classic death metal. I feel like there was elements that were thrown in there, like some more punk style beats. It gives you that kind of thrashy element that was kind of present through a few songs here and there. I felt was very refreshing and kept it from feeling stale or basic. I don't know if that's something this band does all the time. Like I said, I've never really listened to them, so that might be just a regular part of their sound. But either way, it felt refreshing to me. It didn't feel like it was something it exceeded my expectations. Some tracks that stood out to me was track number 4, The Deepest Tomb. Really cool grooves, really good energy. Track number 6, Raped, Strangled, Sodomized, Dead. I feel like this pulls inspiration from Stripped, Raped, and Strangled by Cannibal Corpse. This is one of the songs that has kind of that thrashy feel to it. Just gives it that different approach. And track number 7, Dead Man Stalking. The opening riff on this song is deadly, and the other riffs that happen concurrently are also awesome. I feel like riff-wise, this album was very, very good. I definitely will give this more listens when I get a chance because I thought it was pretty cool.
Well, this band for me is the only one I actually hadn't heard of, like, at all whatsoever before checking out this album. I just didn't know these guys myself. I think I knew, like, when I looked into it before checking out the album, like, okay, these guys are a death metal band. Let's see what this sounds like. And the other two albums today felt like, this kind of old school thing with a lot of flair in it. This one, to me, just kind of felt like straight up death metal. Not to say that's a bad thing, it just didn't feel like there was much out of it that felt like it was overly flavorful or anything. And the thing is, with bands and albums like these, it's not like you have to have some kind of magical experience or crazy profound album. This is just straight up killing people death metal. And if that's the thing you want to listen to, this is the perfect album for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you like that kind of thing, if you're in the mood for that,
Yeah.
then throw this on. It's great for that.
Yeah.
There are 2 songs that I did notably kind of like. One of them is Ode to the Meat Saw. I like that one. And Raped, Strangled, Sodomized, Dead is the first song that I started noticing the punk stuff. There was more after that, but this was the first one. So I thought, oh, okay, this is kind of like more about like a punk-esque kind of song. So I like that. I thought that was pretty neat. But overall, like, there wasn't really too much for me to note about this album, but for what it is good. If you want that style of death metal, this is definitely up your alley.
Agreed. So that's it. 3 albums for the day, and we had a nice long debate about what we're going to review this week, and we're doing Immortal. So War Against All is going to be on full rotation all week long, and we'll be back next week, you guys, to give you guys our full and final review of this album. But for now, leave your comments down below and let us know what you guys think of all these new releases and whatever else you might have heard today or whatever. Just sound off down below and let us know what you guys think. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys on the next one. Keep those heads down.